Week 6 of the 2021 college football season is now over, and today, as we head into Week 7, I'll be giving you guys my updated rankings for this week of the 2021 college football season. And Week 6 was once again another week of insanity. We saw several big upsets. Alabama fell to Texas A&M. Who would have seen that coming? The Aggies knocked off Alabama by 3 on Saturday night, and that was after Texas A&M took 2 straight losses. Texas A&M lost to Arkansas and Mississippi State in the past couple of weeks before Week 6. So that was definitely the most insane upset so far this season. I mean, I did not see that coming. I thought Alabama was going to blow out Texas A&M. By the way, the Aggies have been playing the past few weeks. So, I mean, that was a crazy win there for Texas A&M. A huge credit to them for getting a huge win there. And we also saw several very influential matchups for the college football playoff potentially. Iowa beat Penn State, huge win there for them. And we're also seeing some other teams definitely on the rise right now in the college football playoff picture. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started with 1 through 7. Georgia, no surprise, is number 1. I actually had them at number 1 last week as well. I kind of saw, I mean, Georgia, that was a team that especially after Week 5, you could just tell Georgia was the best team in the nation. And so that's why I swapped Georgia and Alabama. So I had Georgia number 1 last week. And I've got them obviously number 1 this week after beating Auburn 34-10, which I see. I mean, this Georgia team is phenomenal in every aspect. I mean, defensively, they're outstanding. Offensively, they're looking great. I mean, both sides of the ball for Georgia. This is a team that is going to be the team to beat in college football as we head into the middle parts of October here. So, yeah, Georgia, this is an excellent football team. They are 6-0, undefeated. They're going to be a tough team to beat down the stretch. Iowa's number 2. They beat Penn State 23-20, so they got the win by a close 3-point game, and Penn State led that game for the majority of the time. It is very unfortunate for the Nittany Lions that they lost Sean Clifford at one point in that game due to an injury, and best wishes for him. I think Penn State with Sean Clifford is easily a college football playoff contender, and quite honestly, Penn State, they would have won that game. I'm not trying to put backlash towards Iowa here, but Penn State would have won that game if Sean Clifford stayed in my opinion. They completely were in control of that game before that injury happened. So it's unfortunate that he left, but for Iowa, that's a great thing. They got the win 23-20, and they're 6-0. For Cincinnati, they're number 3. They have jumped into the top 4. In fact, they're in the top 3. They beat Temple 52-3 last week. That was on Friday night, I believe. They're moving up 2 positions after last week, and they are 5-0. So Cincinnati, this team is for real. They're going to be tough to beat. I mean, just looking at how they've been playing, they've got a good resume, and right now, Cincinnati wins out. They're in the college football playoff without a doubt. So lots of pressure for the Bearcats. I mean, even one loss will take you out of the top 4 for good. So you probably won't be in the college football playoff no matter what, even if you take one loss. So Cincinnati, they got to run the table. But if they do, this team is in the college football playoff. Oklahoma's number 4. They beat Texas 55-48. They stormed back. That was a classic. I mean, I was watching that game. It was insane the way that Oklahoma came back. Texas was, I think they were up 28-7 at one point in the first quarter, I believe. That was an insane win for Oklahoma. Huge credit to them. That's a quality win. And they are 6-0. Michigan's number 5 after their win against a quality Nebraska team. I was at the game. I'm a Husker fan, and that may be why my voice is hoarse in this video today, is because I was extremely loud there. I'm a Husker fan, and it was unfortunate Nebraska lost. But huge credit to Michigan. They pulled it out in the end. And, I mean, the Wolverines right now are looking like a very good football team. I'd say one of the best in the Big Ten. And quite honestly, I would not be surprised a single bit to see Michigan win that Big Ten East. Huge credit to them. Offensively, they're getting better. I mean, if you look at their defense is tough. I mean, that entire first half yesterday, Michigan was playing extremely well on defense. And, yeah, once again, huge credit to them. They're definitely a top 5 team right now for me. So then Ohio State's number 6, just behind Michigan right now. Ohio State is also a team that is back on the rise. I mean, of course, we saw them a few weeks ago after their loss to Oregon. They weren't looking too good, but I mean, the past 3 weeks, this Ohio State team has really played well. They destroyed Rutgers last week, destroyed Maryland this week, and I understand both teams aren't very good, but I mean, Rutgers is much better than last season, and Maryland is also a team that's got a great offense, and quite honestly, it was very impressive the way that the Buckeyes played yesterday. So Ohio State, they're number 6 in my opinion. They're in the top 6 right now. And Ohio State, they are not out of the college football playoff picture. This team still could very easily get into the top 4. And that Michigan-Ohio State matchup coming up in November is going to be huge in determining who wins the Big Ten East. So Yeah, for Michigan, that entire Big Ten East. I mean, you got 4 teams who could easily win that division. I mean, you got Michigan, you got Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State. All 4 teams are still very capable of winning that division. Penn State, they got to get Sean Clifford back though if they want to win that division. I mean, it's gonna be very tough for any team to win that division. But I think the team that wins that division could very easily be in the college football playoff. Alabama's number 7. I'm dropping them down 5 positions after last week, after their loss to Texas A&M. Just a baffling loss. I mean, Alabama, that from the start, they just did not look too good. And, even one bad performance will take you out of the college football playoff picture. So, Alabama, without a doubt, they're still in the picture to get into the top 4, but that is certainly not a good loss there at Texas A&M on Saturday night. So, Alabama is number 7 in my rankings as of right now. On to 8 through 14. Michigan State moves up 1 position after last week's win to Rutgers. 31-13 was the final score there. Michigan State is a solid football team as well, and they're a big dark horse, I think, in the Big Ten. When you hear about the Big Ten, right now you're hearing about Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. But Michigan State, this team is in the top 10 right now. I've got them in my top 8. They're a very talented football team, and they're 6-0, still undefeated. So they got some big tests coming up. We'll see what Michigan State is made of when they go up against your Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan. And so those are going to be some huge games. But, it's until then, Michigan State is looking very solid right now. Kentucky's number 10. They beat LSU 42-21. Of course, for Kentucky, this is a team who is on the rise right now. They are 6-0. Past 2 games have been outstanding. They've blown out 2 straight opponents. Actually, they haven't blown out. They beat Florida. That was a huge upset win. Then they blew out LSU there, 42-21 this past weekend. So Kentucky, that's also a solid football team. Definitely a dark horse in the SEC. Penn State's number 9. They lost to, once again, Iowa, 20-23 was the final score there. I'm moving them down 5 positions. They'd probably be still in front of Michigan State if Sean Clifford were not injured. That is a very unfortunate loss. Sean Clifford was playing his best ball that he ever has for Penn State. So that is a very unfortunate loss. Best wishes to him. Hopefully we'll see him back at some point this season. I haven't really heard much about his injury status, but hopefully he's back, because Penn State, that is a team that's extremely talented, and they should have won yesterday if Penn State would have had his quarterback still under center. But yeah, for Oregon, they're number 11. They had a bye week this past week. They're 4-1. And I'm moving them down 1 position just to make room for Kentucky. Same thing with Oklahoma State. They had a bye week, but they're being moved down 1 just to let Kentucky up, because I think Kentucky is slightly better than Oregon and Oklahoma State right now. Oregon, it's very unfortunate that they took a loss. To Stanford of all teams as well. That's pretty unfortunate for Oregon, because that's a football team that's got a lot of talent, and they were definitely a contender for the college football playoff, but it's going to be a tough road to get to the playoff now. They got to hope for a lot of upsets, because I don't really see Oregon getting up into the top 4, even if they win the Pac-12 at this point with 1 loss, just because of the strength of the Pac-12. But then you got Ole Miss. They beat Arkansas in a 52-51 game. That's like a Big 12 score in the SEC. Pretty insane game there between Ole Miss and Arkansas. I was watching a good chunk of that one, and Rebels look good. Both teams look good overall. I was surprised by how well Arkansas kept up. I thought Ole Miss was going to win by a couple of touchdowns, but Rebels, solid win. They're ranked 13th for me this week, and they're 4-1. Notre Dame beat Virginia Tech 32-29. That was kind of a scary game there. Virginia Tech kept up for the majority of that matchup, but Notre Dame got the win in the end. I'm moving them down 1 position just because I'm making room for Kentucky and Ole Miss. It looks like I think they deserve positions above Notre Dame as of right now, but the Irish are 5-1 heading into week 7. On to 15 through 21, Arizona State. That is a good football team. I've been saying that all season, even though they took a loss a few weeks back. Arizona State is still, I think, a team that definitely could win the Pac-12. Watch out. Sun Devils are definitely a team that I could easily see winning the Pac-12 this season. They're 5-1, and I'm moving them up into the top 15. Coastal Carolina is number 16. I'm starting to like this Coastal Carolina team. I've been kind of cautious with them, positioning them kind of in the 20 range over the past few weeks, but I'm going to move them up 2 this week to number 16. They're 6-0. Good win over Arkansas State. They've been pretty dominant so far this season, so I think they're deserving of a good position. Florida's number 17. They shut up Vanderbilt 42-0, as they should have. Vanderbilt's a pretty terrible team. So for Florida, that was a good win. They should have won that game as they did, and they're 4-2. Arkansas is also 4-2 after their loss to Ole Miss, and they're number 18 right now. I've got them just ahead of Texas A&M just because of Arkansas. They beat Texas A&M a few weeks back, and you guys would scream at me if I put Texas A&M ahead of Arkansas right now. So we're going to keep Arkansas at 18, just behind Florida. And I think Arkansas, that is still a very talented football team. They should make it to a pretty good bowl game, but the past 2 weeks have been tough for them, to say the least. Texas A&M, they lost to Alabama, or they beat Alabama there. My apologies. 41-30 was the final score there. And they're 4-2 as well. So Texas A&M, I did have them in my rankings last week at 24. I mean, that is still a very talented football team. And even though I was surprised to see them beat Alabama, huge credit to the Aggies. That was a huge win for that team. And I mean, once again, that will definitely change the momentum for that team heading forward. It'll be interesting to see how the Aggies do heading into the middle parts of October. Wake Forest is number 20. I'm not very high on Wake Forest yet. I mean, the past 2 weeks, they've had close games to Louisville and Syracuse. They beat Syracuse in overtime. So, I mean, Wake Forest, they're undefeated at 6-0, but would they really beat Texas A&M or Arkansas or Florida? I understand. I mean, the SEC is, you guys are going to say that I'm favoring the SEC, but just being honest here, Wake Forest, if they're having tough times beating Syracuse and Louisville, do you really think they're going to beat Florida or Arkansas right now? I mean, it could happen, but Wake Forest, I got to see more out of them and a better quality win in order for me to rank Wake Forest a little bit higher, which 20 I think is pretty reasonable. But right now, I don't really want to put them ahead of those SEC teams there. NC State's number 21. They had a bye week this past week. They're 4-1. And I'm still kind of questioning them as well. I think they're a very talented football team, but still got to see some more out of NC State to put them any higher in my rankings. 22 through 25. Texas is number 22. They lost to Oklahoma 48-55. I'm keeping them at 22 just because, I mean, the way that they played against Oklahoma, I mean, you got to finish the game. They just, I mean, I don't know what happened in the past or in the last couple of quarters there, but they completely decombusted. I mean, Texas just did not look very good, and that defense allowed Oklahoma to storm back into that game. But that entire first half, Texas was looking like a top 15 team without a doubt, top 10 team, I would say. But in the end, Texas did end up losing, but they're 4-2, and I still think that they deserve the number 22 position. Auburn lost to Georgia 10-34. Obviously, Georgia is a phenomenal team. I mean, that's a very good Bulldog team this season. And, I mean, as I said earlier, I would not be surprised to see Georgia win a title, a national title this season. So, Auburn, I'm going to drop them down 9 positions. I had them kind of high last week, but I'm still going to keep them in the top 25. That's still, I would say, a talented football team that would beat the teams that are behind them in the rankings. San Diego State's number 24. I've got them entering the rankings this week. They look good. I mean, the past few weeks, they've been blowing out their opponents. And, I mean, overall, I think San Diego State deserves a spot in the top 25 this week. They beat New Mexico 31-7. They're 5-0. Once again, I just don't think, if you were to put San Diego State against Auburn or Texas, I just don't see San Diego State winning the game yet. I think if you put San Diego State against BYU right now, San Diego State would win. And that's why I've got BYU at number 25 there after the loss against Boise State. Just a brutal loss for the Cougars. I mean, BYU, they were looking like a solid team, and I was starting to like them quite a bit because, I mean, they were playing very well, pretty dominant, and they had a couple of solid wins a few weeks back. But after a loss like that, I mean, that's not what you need when you're not in the Power 5. So BYU, moving them down several positions to number 25. I mean, Boise State, that's not a very good football team either. They were 2-3, I think, heading into that game. So, yeah, just a tough loss for BYU. I still think they're very talented, but, I mean, once again, if you want to have a hope, even if you're out of the Power 5, I mean, you got to win those games. So, yeah, for BYU, they're going to be number 25 for me this week, but they're still 5-1, so still a pretty talented football team there. First 5 out, I've got SMU 26, Clemson 27. SMU is also a good football team, but I mean, they're playing close games to teams that they really should not be if they want to be in the top 25. So SMU is close, but I'm not going to have them in the rankings quite yet. Clemson is number 27, Baylor's 28, Mississippi State 29, and UTSA at 30. Some of you guys will say UTSA should be in the top 25, but that is a team that's played a lot of close games to, like, they just had a close game to Western Kentucky. So, I mean, Western Kentucky's they got a decent offense, but, I mean, if you're going to be a top 25 team, you got to win those games against much lesser opponents by significant margins. So I'm going to keep them in the background there. But dropped out from last week. I did have Clemson at 25 last week, but I think I'm going to drop them out after their bye week this week, and we'll see how they do next week. So anyway, that being said, I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. on these rankings. And I appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.